Hey, welcome back guys. This is Jason, KM4ACK. Today, we're going to take a Raspberry Pi Zero 2W and turn it into a Winlink Gateway. Stick around and we'll get right to it. Real quick before we get going today, I've got to give a shout out to these guys. They're my latest patrons over on Patreon. If you'd like to help support the channel, I'll leave a link to Patreon down in the description below. Right up front, I want to let you guys know this is going to be a lengthy video. There's no way to really trim it down because I want to be as thorough as possible. However, with that said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave chapters down in the description below so that you can jump to the section of the video that you need to see. Maybe you watch it all the way through the first time and come back the second time and just skip to those portions that you need. Now, just in case you're not familiar with the way timestamps work, on a video, at least when you're watching it on the desktop, I'm not sure how this works on mobile, when you hover over a certain section, you'll see that we get a chapter view right here. It tells us the title of that chapter is a basic Pi setup, and then the next one is Direwolf config setup. This is an old video that I did. Also, if you scroll down just a little bit and you click the Show More button, you'll see that all of those timestamps are written out right there, and we can just click on a particular one and jump to that section of the video. The next thing you need to know before we get into this is you have to be approved to be a Winlink Sysop. That's what they call it, or system operator. I will leave a link to this page down in the description below so that you can read through it. And then there is a contact email down here for Steve Waterman, K4CJX, I believe that is. And you can send him an email to request authorization. But you do need to be a Winlink Sysop before starting this tutorial. Now, let's talk about some of the equipment that I used for this build, or actually all of the equipment that I used for this build. I chose to go with the Yaesu FT2980R radio. It's a 2-meter only rig, but I do plan on running this gateway on the same frequency that I've always ran the previous gateway. So 2 meters worked well, and this radio is pretty budget friendly for a project like this. Now, to go along with the radio, I am using the SignalLink USB sound card. They're a little on the pricey side, but these work with a wide array of radios, and I happen to have an extra one laying around, so I didn't have to purchase this particular component. Now, let's talk about the Raspberry Pi. I'm using the new, as of the time of this recording, Raspberry Pi Zero 2W. These things are really hard to come by right now, but you can use a Raspberry Pi 3 or a Raspberry Pi 4 in place of this. Everything that I'm going to show you today should work without any issues, because this is ridiculously expensive over on Amazon for this Raspberry Pi Zero 2. To go along with the Raspberry Pi Zero, I chose this case. And guys, I'm going to leave links to all of this stuff down in the description below so that hopefully you can find it. One of these items that I'm going to show you is out of stock right now, but hopefully they'll get some back in soon. But this is the case that I chose for this build. I will say this was a frustrating case to put together. It's a very nice case, but there's a lot of pieces, and it took me a couple of attempts to get it actually put together correctly. Now, this case is specifically designed to go with this hub, and this is a USB hub that you see right here. Again, it's currently available, but that's the Sierra Bravo 04U USB hub. And the only thing it does is it gives you 4 USB ports that you can plug up into. It stacks really nice on top of the Pi and works great with the case that I just showed you. If you don't have this particular board, you can use an adapter to adapt the one micro USB port that you're going to have left to a full-size USB port if you're going to be using that Signalink sound card. Okay, so now let's start taking a look at the Raspberry Pi itself. I've already remoted into the Raspberry Pi that I'm going to be using for this build, and I have Bullseye loaded onto it. So this tutorial is specific to Raspberry Pi OS Bullseye, and this is a completely blank slate. The only thing I've done is install the OS. So the first thing we need to do is we need to head over and get Build-A-Pi so that we can install the components that we need. So you can find Build-A-Pi at github.com/km4ack. So I'm simply going to copy this section of code right here, and we'll head back over to the Pi. Let's go ahead and open up a terminal window and paste in that little bit of code. Once we do that, hit your return button and sit back and give it just a couple of seconds, and you'll be ready to start entering the information. And after 2 or 3 minutes here, we are presented with the first Build-A-Pi screen. I'm just going to click continue here, and I'll go ahead and enter my call sign. We'll press continue. Now, depending on your particular build, you may need to install different applications than I do. I'm not going to be dealing with rig control in this video because the particular radio I chose does not have rig control available. I don't need things like the hotspot or hotspot tools because this is just going to live in the shack and be connected up wirelessly to my main Wi-Fi here in the shack, so that when the gateway receives email, it will pass that out over the Wi-Fi connection here in the shack. So on the first screen here, the base applications, I'm going to grab Direwolf, I'm going to grab AX25, and I'm going to grab Pulse. We can go ahead and click the next button. I don't need anything from the FL Digi suite. Again, if you need rig control, you might want to go ahead and install FL Rig here to make life a bit easier for you. So I'll just go ahead and click next since I don't need anything from that screen. And now I'm going to come up to the ham application screen. I really don't want to install anything from this screen here either. With a Raspberry Pi Zero, we are kind of limited on what we can run. We've got limited amount of resources, let me say it that way. So I don't want to bog the system down in any way. So I'm going to skip all of the ham applications. And next up, we'll be presented with utilities. Now, the main thing we need is the LinBPQ software. A few other things that I like to install on my system is I'm going to go ahead and install Telnet and this PyTerm or PyQT-Term TCP terminal program. Once I've got those three selected, click on the Install Selected button. We'll give this a few minutes, probably going to take 20 minutes or so for everything to get installed, and then we can begin configuring the system. Once everything is installed, you will be presented with the Build, Finish, Reboot Required box here. Now, for the moment, normally I would say Reboot right here, but for the moment I'm going to click Exit because the next action that I take is going to require us to reboot anyway. The one thing I like to do, you'll see right here on the screen where it says Pi at Raspberry Pi. I don't ever leave my production machines named Raspberry Pi because I don't want 9 of those on my network. So let's go ahead and change that. We'll just come up to the main Pi menu, come down to Preferences and Raspberry Pi Configuration. Once that screen opens up, we're going to come right here to the host name, and I'm going to change that. I'm going to make mine WL2K for Winlink 2000. Let's go ahead and click OK, and you'll see that it's going to tell me again that I've got to reboot. Now I want to go ahead and reboot the Pi. Okay, now that the Pi is rebooted, I'm just going to click OK here and close out of that. And let's just verify that that host name did stick, and you'll see now it's Pi at WL2K. So 99% of the time, Build-A-Pi will go ahead and configure your sound card and your direwolf.conf file. Just in case it doesn't, I want to cover this real quick. I'm just going to run a record -L. And this is going to give me a list of my sound cards. And you'll see right here, this USB audio codec is card 3 device 0. All right, so let's go ahead and open up our direwolf.conf file. So I'm just going to open the file browser, and you'll see that right here in your home directory. I'm going to right click and say text editor. Once that file opens up, you can come down to roughly line 77. It may not be exact, but if it's a default install, it will be. And you'll see right here that it says a device space plug HW colon 3,0. Well, this 3,0 is the number of our sound card. In this case, Build-A-Pie was able to successfully sort that out and update everything for me, so I know Direwolf is good. Let's go ahead and configure the LinBPQ software. So we'll want to come up to the main Pi menu, we'll come down to Accessories, and we're going to grab this BPQ config generator. We'll go ahead and open that up. And since this is a brand new build, we do not have an existing configuration file. If we did, you could click this button here to say read the existing configuration file. Since I don't have one, we're going to skip that and just start entering our information. So the node call sign is going to be the first thing. This should be your call sign. Now, something that I ran into trying to sort everything out for this video, I was not able to connect to my own node, and it turns out that I needed to put an SSID in this box. So I'm going to go ahead and enter -2 there so that I'll be able to connect to my own node. The node alias I really don't think matters for this particular case, but I'm just going to enter ACK, which is obviously the last 3 letters of my call. My grid is going to be EM65. Now, we want to enter something here for the web management interface, username, and password. So, my username, I'm just going to use my call, and the password, I'll just use password for now. Once we've entered this information, now you can check this box right here to enable the web management interface. Now, for this particular video, it's kind of out of the scope, but you can enable a BBS gateway and a chat gateway and also a PRS gateway as well. I'm not going to run any of those on this particular machine. The next thing we need to do is we need to enter our call sign and our Winlink password right here. These are the credentials that will be used to actually make a call to the Winlink system. So I'll put my password or call sign there and then my password here. And we'll go ahead and choose, after we've got that, we want to put a check mark by Enable CMS Access. And finally, we need to add our Direwolf port. So we're going to click Add Port right there. We'll leave the port number as 2. I'm going to choose KISS TCP right here. And I'm going to rename that so it's a little easier to find. We'll call that Direwolf. And let's change our port number. It's not 8100, but it's 8001. And we'll go ahead and click Save. Now, we need one more piece of information here, and let me kind of explain what this is and why this is. So this next change that we're going to make puts us on the Winlink map. So this map is at winlink.org. You can click on Tools, and then you can sort this out, whether you're looking for a packet gateway, Pactor, robust packet, or whatever. But you see all of these bubbles, and I've pulled up my particular information here. Currently my old gateway is online. My new one will be replacing this one. But the next thing we're going to do in the configuration is what puts all of this information on the map. So if you don't want this information made available to the public, you can skip this next step. I think everyone should put it out there so that others can utilize your gateway. Why else would you be putting it up? And I do want to show you one other website. Again, I will leave a link to this down in the description below. This is from John Wiseman, who is the developer of LinBPQ, and he kind of walks through what all of this means. So the lines that you'll see me pasting in here next is coming right here. So this tells you what every single piece of this is, and this is a great document to read through if you've got any questions. But we're just going to start with WL2K report, and then we're going to paste out, or I'm going to be pasting in all of these additional parameters. So here's my information already filled out. You'll see that that line begins with WL2K report. It's going to be public. This information here is the website that the system is going to report to. This is the port number it's going to report over, my call with the SSID, my locator. This is hours of operation. 0-23 means basically that I'm going to have this in service 24 hours a day. This is the frequency that it's going to be running on, and that does need to be in a specific format right there, but that is my frequency. This is the type of service that we are going to be setting up today. It is packet 1200 baud, and then I never can remember these 4 pieces of information. It's antenna height, gain, antenna direction, and something else. The document that I showed you earlier spells all of that out for you. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy all of this, and I'm going to choose my KISS TCP Direwolf port, and we'll go ahead and click Edit. Now we want this to go in right before the end of the port, so I will paste this information in here, and once we've got that, we can click on Save. And that's the final piece of the puzzle for the configuration file, so we can just go ahead and click Write Config File. We'll get a box that tells us that the config file has been created, so I'll click OK, and I can close out of this config file generator. Now, I want all of these services to start, Direwolf, AX25, and LinBPQ when the Pi boots up. To make that easy for all of us, I went ahead and wrote a script to make that happen. So again, we're back at github.com/km4ack. Let's click on PyScripts right here, and we will scroll down the page. I am looking for something called WL2K Gateway Setup. I'm going to go ahead and click into that. Now, this step is critical. If you miss this, this will not work correctly. You've got to click on the raw button right here. Once you've clicked on the raw button, I'm going to come up here to the address bar in the browser and copy that address. I can minimize that, and we'll go ahead and open a terminal window. Let's move to the downloads directory with cd space downloads, and we'll use our wget command to download this file. So wget space, and then we're going to paste in that address that we just copied. We'll go ahead and press return, and it takes it just a couple of seconds to load up. Let's clear out that screen, and you'll see if we run the ls command, we do have that file in our downloads directory. So we need to go ahead and run that, and that will be bash space WL2K, 2K underscore gateway dot setup. We can press return right here to start the script. It gives you a little bit of information. It tells you that it's going to install an application called Screen, which we use to start the other applications at boot. You just go ahead and press any key to continue and give the script a few minutes to do its thing. And once the script finishes up, a reboot is required right here to get everything running. But before we get to the reboot, I do want to show you exactly what is going on with this script. So if you run into issues, you may at least have a starting point for diagnostics. So I'm going to run cron tab space -e. And this is a brand new system. I want to choose 1, the nano editor. And you'll see right here that we've got this entry, which is the gateway auto start at boot. So at reboot, we're going to sleep for 20 seconds, and then we're going to run this particular script here. So I'll go ahead and copy that, and then I'm going to press Control X to get out of here. So let's clear that screen again, and let's cat out that file. and that is /usr/local/bin/gateway-start. And I want to pipe that, let's see, pipe that through the more command. That way it won't scroll off the screen all at one time. We'll go ahead and press return, and you'll see that all of this is happening at boot. So right here we're starting Direwolf, then we do the kiss attach, and then we start the BPQ server. All of this is what's going to be entered on your desktop so that you've got a handy set of instructions when you come back into this machine. If we just press the space bar, that'll go ahead and drop us out of that. So let's go ahead and reboot the Pi one more time. And while that Pi was rebooting, I went ahead and shut down the old gateway completely. If you didn't catch the joke there, you can watch the video that I'll link down below of my dumb mistake I did while getting ready and preparing everything for this video. All right, so now that we have the system back online, you'll see a new text document on your desktop. We're just going to right click on that and say text editor. And this gives us a list of commands we can run to look at everything. So if you want to verify that Direwolf has started, you can run this command here. And for the BPQ server, you'll run this command here. So let's go ahead and try these out real quick. Let's open up a terminal window, and I'm going to run screen space -r space DW for Direwolf and press return. And you can see that Direwolf is here and running. Now we'll come back to this when we actually start trying to make our first connection, and we'll be able to watch that connection happen. To get out of this, you can't just close this or press Control-C to get out of it. The way screen works is you want to press Control-A on the keyboard, let go of it, and then press the letter D for detach. And you'll see that we get this right here, that we detached from that screen session. Now let's run the same thing, but this time let's look at the BPQ software that's running. Now, you may see something, especially on the first run, like BPQ data not found, continuing without it. That should all be generated as we carry on, and on future restarts, you shouldn't see that information. So at this point, our gateway is up and running. So the next thing we need to do is actually try to connect to it. So I do want to get out of this BPQ screen here. So again, I'm going to press Control-A and let go of those two keys, and then press the letter D, Delta, on the keyboard, and that will detach us from the BPQ session. Now, one other note right here before we start the testing: if you run into configuration issues with your setup, this is the place to go to help you sort it out. John runs this particular forum and is very responsive to users when they have questions. So maybe you want to install the chat server, or maybe you want to install the BBS and you've got some questions surrounding that. This is the place to go. We're only tackling a very basic setup today. So let's go ahead and close out of that file. And I'm going to open up that Direwolf screen again. So screen space -r space DW. So a quick explanation here of exactly what we're looking at. On this box right here, I am running my ICOM 705. So this is going to serve as the client. In the background over on this side, you're looking at the gateway. You can see that maybe right up here where it says WL2K. So I went ahead and entered in the credentials for making the connection. And now we can just go ahead and click connect. And we should be able to see, it may be a little small on the screen, especially this terminal down here, but you'll be able to see the progress there. And you'll be able to see the progress over here in that Direwolf file, or Direwolf window that's open on the gateway. So let's go ahead and click the connect and see if we did everything correctly. And that's it. We made a successful connection. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and blow this up just a little bit larger so that we can take a look at it. Let's scroll down. And you'll see that it says connecting to KM4ACK-10. It went ahead and connected to this Amazon AWS, which is where the Winlink servers reside. And it did a complete successful connection. So there you have it. There's a Winlink Gateway setup from the very start to the very finish. I hope this helps you get your gateway online, because the more gateways we have online like this, the better the entire system is. We'll see you guys on the next video. Until then, 7-3.